The police board considers better public education for 911 calls as the service is inundated with non-urgent complaints. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Unnecessary 911 calls and how they drain police resources was the focus of today's Thunder Bay Police Board meeting.
Board members and police want to better define what constitutes an actual emergency. Vasile Spels is following this story, and that's not all. Vasile, there's also a strong statement from Mayor Ken Boshkov about city safety.
That's right, Riley. The mayor mentioned that he believes 99% of the areas in Thunder Bay are safe. It comes as the most recent citizen satisfaction survey shows that many residents just don't share that sentiment. A discussion on how to ensure police resources are utilized effectively.
911 calls that come in, they're all prioritized.
That was a focus of Tuesday's Thunder Bay Police Services Board meeting, with members stressing the issue of many 911 calls not being in response to emergencies. Deputy Chief Ryan Hughes explains those calls still tie up resources.
Calls that come into 911, it's a phone number to call. They're not an emergency call, but still we have to prioritize them. Someone who's getting beaten up as opposed to someone's light in from their neighbors being shot through their window.
Some at the meeting thought about creating a new system where non-urgent requests can be directed elsewhere, rather than taking resources away from serious emergencies. Discussions then turned to safety in the city after a deputation from a concerned citizen.
Isn't a dangerous city in 99% of the area.
Mayor Ken Boshkov, who sits on the board, stressed that Thunder Bay is a safe city. That declaration comes after the most recent citizen satisfaction survey found 50% of respondents called crime their largest concern. Stats Canada's most recent numbers from 2022 also show an increase in Thunder Bay's violent crime severity index every year since 2019. When presented with this information, this is what Boshkov had to say.
We have to respect that people have fears, but we also have to understand that people are learning how to protect themselves, stay away from areas that they think might be dangerous, and that's not to say that you leave your doors unlocked. You know, part of being a good citizen, is that you don't lead anybody into temptation.
Police have stressed in the past that a significant amount of violent crime in the city is related to guns and gangs, with victims of that violence often involved with those groups. Vasilios Balos, TBT News.
Students at St. Patrick High School were forced to evacuate this morning after the school received another threat. The incident forced a closure of the school today and canceled all after-school activities and events. The Catholic School Board didn't release any specifics about the threat. 7 police cruisers could be seen stationed outside around 10 o'clock this morning. Officers walked through the school and deemed it safe for students to return to class tomorrow. And this all comes following multiple threats made against St. Pat's in November and December, which resulted in the arrests of 2 teenagers.
The family of an Oliver Papoon Sr. is expressing deep gratitude to 2 men following a devastating house fire on Oliver Road on February 11th.
The quick actions of the 2 brave passers-by likely saved the man's life. Jaden Billick has the details.
Wasn't really thinking much of anything other than getting the guy out.
19-year-old Jesse Meekin was driving to a friend's house in Kakabeka when he noticed thick smoke coming from a house on Oliver Road. Meekin, whose father is a firefighter, quickly decided to turn around and make sure everything was under control after he noticed that emergency vehicles hadn't yet arrived at the scene.
Just driving by, noticed a little too much smoke for a normal bonfire. Ended up just turning around, noticed the house was on fire. Ended up calling 911 right away. I started looking for people through the windows. Noticed a guy sleeping just in his living room there. Ended up just trying to find the safest way in. Ended up going through his front door.
When he arrived at the door, he noticed it was blocked by furniture from the inside. Filled with adrenaline but blinded by the blaze and smoke, he tried his best to force the door open. Another passerby also stopped to help, and the 2 rescuers managed to clear the debris and rush inside, just in time to save the elderly resident.
Another guy ended up showing up, helping me get him out. But we ended up getting him out, waiting for, then just kind of waited to make sure everything was good, waited for the police, fire, ambulance to show up, and yeah.
Oliver Papoon's Fire Chief Sean Horan is cautioning against any citizen barging into a burning home. But he recognizes the two men likely have saved a life. The occupant, 69-year-old William Wapori, had been renting the home for many years and lost everything. His family has set up a GoFundMe with hopes of reaching a goal of $5,000 to help replace his belongings. And his daughter Crystal is expressing heartfelt thanks to the two men who pulled him out of the burning home. Jesse is currently in a carpentry apprenticeship. When he's finished with that, he plans to become a firefighter just like his dad. The two of them constantly joke around together, saying that Jesse is a true hero because he doesn't need a firefighting suit to save lives. Jaden Billick, TBT News.
True story of heroism, to be sure. Kenora OPP have arrested 6 people for drug trafficking after searching a Minto Avenue home on Friday night. 4 of the accused are from Kenora, while 2 are from nearby Rat Portage First Nation. Police seized suspected fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, and hydromorphone. Weapons charges were also laid against 3 of the suspects. You can see in this image provided by police what appears to be brass knuckles, a switchblade, and a hatchet. 3 of the accused remain in custody, while 3 others have been released. All 6 will appear in court at a later date.
Ontario MPPs have returned to the legislature after their winter break.
An ambitious piece of legislation was brought to Queen's Park today to ban tolls on provincial highways and get rid of license plate renewals. CTV's Siobahn Morris reports.
First order of business is a suite of measures intended to push development into high gear.
The Get It Done Act will allow Ontario to accelerate construction of transit, housing, and infrastructure projects that we need to support our growing population.
The government says this will also make life more affordable, banning tolls on provincially controlled highways, forcing a referendum for any future carbon tax, and freezing the cost to renew photo ID cards. But there's concern about watering down environmental protection.
The Get It Done Wrong Act is actually going to do something I didn't think the Ford government could do, is actually make the Environmental Assessment Act even worse.
This bill also includes a reversal of a reversal, reinstating some urban boundary changes to build housing after talking with municipal leaders.
They have made the decisions on what parts of it that they want to retain and what parts they're not happy with. So this will reflect those consultations.
The opposition leader thinks it's all a distraction from government mistakes.
They're going to spend more time reversing their own legislation than taking the actions that would make life better for the people of Ontario.
Addressing a shortage of housing and primary care physicians.
My doctor went to a clinic that's charging almost $5,000 a year in annual fees for patients to receive care.
The Premier counters that the province is on solid footing.
We are an economic powerhouse now because of our policies. $28 billion of EV investments, $20 billion of tech, life sciences $3 billion.
She doesn't have a seat at Queen's Park, but Bonnie Crombie was in the mix as MPPs returned. A week after the Premier called the Liberal leader the Queen of the Carbon Tax.
I'm Queen of the People's Hearts.
Crombie isn't ready to lay out whether she'd entertain carbon pricing as Premier.
We have to consult our members, we want to consult scientists and stakeholders, and we will bring forward a very comprehensive plan that will cost taxpayers money.
And address the climate crisis.
That was CTV's Siobahn Morris. On her first day back at Queen's Park, local MPP Lise Vaugeois blasted the Ford government on a perceived lack of urgency when it comes to making Ontario accessible. Vaugeois is the NDP's critic for accessibility and persons with disabilities. In December, the government quietly released a scathing report it had received last June, which casts doubt that the province will meet its accessibility targets by 2025.
According to the final report on the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, your government is failing on every measure to make Ontario barrier-free by 2025. Perhaps it's not surprising then that your government hid this report for 6 months. You owe people with disabilities an apology and you owe them action. Will the government finally agree to work with the AODA Alliance and make Ontario barrier-free for the nearly 3 million Ontarians with disabilities?
The feedback provided by the first legislative review is a great example of how the Ontario is continuously working to identify barriers, to listen to the feedback and make Ontario accessible.
Federal public servants in the Thunder Bay area now have the option to work in a new alternative workplace, which is now open on Fort William First Nation. Thunder Bay Rainy River MP Marcus Pulowski toured the new co-working space today, following nearly $3 million worth of renovations. The space is located on the second floor of the federal government building on an MP Drive. The amenities include meeting and collaborative spaces, solo workstations, a treadmill desk, and personal lockers. There's enough capacity for 64 people, and it allows federal workers from all departments to work and interact in the same place. Regional Manager Danielle Galiera says what makes the space even more unique is that it was developed in collaboration with Fort William First Nation.
All of the artwork is local, Indigenous artwork, and even some of the design elements, the main area behind the front desk is a circle, and it's based off of our meetings with the First Nations, the chief, and so they were involved in all that.
I think it kind of shows the growing importance of Thunder Bay as the center for federal government in Ontario, and I think that's largely because of the large Indigenous population.
The project is one of 11 in the country and the first of its kind on First Nations land.
There was an emotional day in Bagagnab last week as students set foot in their new elementary school for the very first time.
After many years of planning and construction, the opening of the brand new school was a big event for everyone in the Pick River community. Lee Noonan has the story.
Students at Bagagnab Elementary started the school day at the old building for the last time before parading through the community to their new school. Education Director Lisa Machano-Courchain was herself a student and then a teacher at the old school.
Staff cried, community members cried because community members lined the roads on both sides. The kids, their reaction coming in to the school today was unbelievable. Like I expected them to be excited, but to hear it and see it there's no words to describe that.
Grade 7 student Jillian Anderson spent more than 8 years at the old school and says she's really excited to finish up her last years of elementary school in the new building.
I'm really excited to just make new memories with my friends and teachers and everybody else that's around.
Grade 6 student Liam Otaquam says it was really exciting to walk into his new school and new classroom for the first time.
I said, oh my God, this is so cool. Better than the other one. The other one was like kind of old and like the desks were crowded.
Grade 3 student Leighton Gagne says she loves her new classroom and she loves that the new school has a gym.
We always had to walk to the hall, and I never had our own gym in school.
Having their own gym is a big deal for a lot of the students. For the adults, says Machano-Courchain, it's more about breaking free from a traumatic history with the education system.
Trying to close that chapter, leave those things behind, and transition into a new school where we're no longer under the same people who put our people through some very horrific traumas in the guise of education. It's a new world, it's a new change, it's a new chapter.
Although there's still some exterior work needed, Machano-Courchain is thrilled to see the school finally up and running. She says the project took about 6 years and over $20 million to complete.
One thing that always is at the back of my mind is that every First Nation community should have the opportunity to have this for their kids.
Every kid we've spoken to here has said they love their new school. Lee Noonan,
TBT News.
Well, a Thunder Bay family has pulled off a big victory on a popular Canadian game show. The Dampiers appeared on last night's episode of Family.
The Dampier family.
So we're from Thunder Bay. We came to play. We're here to stay.
The team is made up of Lisa Dampier and her husband Joe, their 2 children Katie and Alex, and their goddaughter Alexa Desjardins. The local family managed to win the first 2 rounds before the defending champs from Scarborough won the 3rd round. That forced a tiebreaker in the triple point round, and that's where Alex Dampier put the family in the driver's seat for the victory.
Name something that might get stuck in a tree.
A cat.
A cat.
Give me that.
Pass or play? They're gonna play.
I'm gonna go with a kite.
A kite.
Good answer. A ball.
A ball.
Yeah.
A ladder.
A ladder gets stuck in a tree.
A ladder gets stuck in the tree for sure. A person.
Good
It's up there. You're playing.
A shoe. For the
It's
win.
up there for the win. For the win. A shoe.
The Dampiers then went on to the fast money round. Joe and Alex teamed up to try to reach the magic number of 200 points in order to win the $10,000 prize at the end of the show. They came very close, but couldn't quite pull it off. However, as returning champs, the family will get another chance to win big on tonight's episode, airing at 7:30 on CBC.
Well, I felt like I was living the whole thing
Me
there with
too.
them. That
I
was
was-
great. That was
on the edge of my
very
seat.
exciting. And of course, we will be cheering them on
tonight.
And
Absolutely.
hopefully they can keep that streak going. And hopefully they can win fast money this time around as we turn to weather now with Haley Perreault. Haley, we were above the freezing mark once again today.
Yeah, speaking of streaks going, the warm streak continues for this time of year. We saw a high of 2 today under a mix of different cloud coverage. So mostly cloudy, partly cloudy, back to clouds again, just kind of on and off. Our low today was -8, but that happened at 2 this morning. And typically for this time of year, we're seeing lows that are twice as cold, -16 without wind chill. And then with our wind chill, we were at -12 because we weren't seeing significant gusts, but throughout the day we saw wind shift from north-northeast to more easterly between 2 and 22 kilometers an hour. Now, when we look at the region, Red Lake saw a similar high to us today. Their high was 2 degrees, but they saw more sun than we did, although now they are under some cloud coverage and they're at -1. We see -1 in Kenora and Sioux Lookout as well. Fort Frances is at 3 degrees and their high was 5 degrees today. Even more wild than that, Atikokan had a high of 6 today. They're now at 3 degrees as well, similar with Uppsala. Armstrong is at -3. They saw a little sun this afternoon, but most of their day was cloudy. And then Greenstone got a little afternoon sun as well, but they're under some cloud coverage and 1 degree right now. 1 degree in Marathon and in Wawa as well. And then Sault Ste. Marie was mostly cloudy, and they're actually at their high of the day right now at 2 degrees. Now for Thunder Bay tonight, we are going to drop down to -8 once again, very similar to last night. And our wind chill will feel like -13, so almost a repeat. And it will be a partly cloudy night, winds coming from the east. So similar evenings to last night, and we're going to see similar warm temperatures continue as we move throughout the week.
Thanks a lot, Haley.
Thank you so much, Haley. Well, now turning our attention to national news now. The United States vetoed a UN Security Council's resolution, which was calling for a ceasefire in the Hamas-Israel war. We'll have more on that as your Tuesday News Hour continues.
Demanding an immediate, unconditional ceasefire without an agreement requiring Hamas to release the hostages will not bring about a durable peace.